Hi there everyone, it's Misty here from the Joyful Elf. Welcome back to the TLC Design Shop YouTube channel. I'm so excited to have you join me today. So in today's video, we are going to be using the Forest Pals stamp set. This one is almost gone, you guys, and once it's gone forever. So make sure you head over to the shop to pick it up. Links will be in the description box down below. So in this video, we're going to be doing some paper pasting instead of coloring. We're going to be making a 5x7 card, and it's a baby card. I'm so excited to walk you through this. So we'll head over to my craft table and we'll get started. So I have cut out the interior frame from the Daisy frame set with, out of craft cardstock. And then I am stamping the tree stump from the Forest Pal stamp set. And then I am also stamping a mask. So I use Eclipse, like a moon eclipse, masking tape or paper that you can find on Amazon. There's all sorts of different masking. You could use a Post-it note. You don't have to purchase any kind of special material, but I just like that it's easier, etc. So I did that because I wanted the Cricut to be on top. This Cricut is from the Troll Cricut Fun stamp set. And again, everything will be linked in the description box down below, along with all the social medias. So it was more important for me to make sure that the Cricut had a placeholder because I didn't want to have to cut out their antenna. I am actually going to be stamping all of these images onto pattern paper. We're going to be doing some paper piecing today. And I'm doing that because I color a lot, and I want you to see other ways that you can add these types of images to cards without having to color them with markers. Paper piecing is a fun way. You don't have to use patterns. You could use regular cardstock and cut them out. It's completely up to you. So I'm using the Ink Me in pink and the Simply Sweet digital papers from the shop. And then I pulled in this green gingham, it's just a scrap piece of paper I've probably had for 100 years. And each of the images is getting its own pattern. I thought that would be really, really fun. So once I've done that, I am going to bring in some of my Copic markers. Now you could do this with colored pencils. You could do this with crayons. You could do this with Crayola markers. You don't have to have an expensive marker to do this. All I'm doing is adding in some shading. This gives your images more dimension so they're not as flat. And I'm just going in where it would be darker and then blending it out with the lighter marker. So not a lot of heavy coloring. Again, the pattern paper is what's actually bringing the color. We're just adding a little bit of life and 3D to it by using some color. And like I said, you could use anything for this, literally anything. Probably not watercolors because this isn't watercolor paper, but if you print it on watercolor paper, you could absolutely do that. So initially I colored the hooves and the nose of the deer gray, and I just thought it just looked too severe. So I went ahead and restamped it and colored everything with pink. And I really, really love how these images turned out. This is the cutest stamp set. So again, pick it up if you want it because it's not going to last very long. There are only just a few left, and this one's not coming back in production. So I'm just going to bring in some scissors. I'm going to cut out all those images, and then I'm taking a black brush pen marker and going around the edges. You want to do this from the back. That way, I did it up from the front a little bit, but I'm lucky I didn't screw it up because that probably would have happened if I hadn't. So once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and bring in some brown markers to color the stump. I apologize, I didn't keep track of these markers. I'm pretty sure it's probably R57, not R57, E59, E37, and E35, if I had to guess. But any kind of browns will do. I'm taking the very darkest marker and just going over the lines, and I'm bringing in a lighter marker to go over it. So just simple two coloring. Again, you could do this with crayons, you could do this with Sharpies, you could do this with really just about anything. You could leave it as it is. It's completely up to you. Bringing in some Tombow Mono liquid glue to adhere down my little images. And I just think this turned out, oh, it's just so cute. It's just so cute. And I love this 5x7 because this die, while it fits on a regular A2 size card, you just get a little bit more of the pattern paper that I'm going to use by doing it this way. So I'm going to bring in some cardstock. This is a card base. So I cut this at 7 by 10 and I scored it at 5. That's how you get a 5 by 7 card. And I couldn't decide on the color of frame that I wanted to go behind this layer. So initially I brought in green. I'm like, no, I don't want to do green. And then I was like, okay, let's decide on the background paper before we decide on the frame paper. So for the paper, the pattern that I used to color the deer, or for the deer, I printed that 6 per page. That way I would have a smaller pattern. For this plaid, I printed 2 per page. That way it would be a little bit bigger. So I've mentioned this before, but when I do pattern paper, I like to do a large pattern, a medium pattern, and then one that would work as like a solid or a neutral. So what's on the, like any of the patterns that are on the animals would work as a solid or a neutral because it's basically tone on tone. For the sizes, I cut down the larger plaid to 1/4 of an inch smaller. So it's 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And then I made the green layer 1/8 of an inch bigger. I really like the look of that. It just gives it a bit, and you can see that bit of green in this pattern. This paper is just so pretty. And if you guys have been with me for a while, you know I love plaid. Actually, I just love pattern. Houndstooth, argyle, plaid. We're doing herringbone for the tile in our new bathroom. So I'm like, just give me a pattern. I love it, love it, love it. So this is one of my go-to sketches. So I either do this vertically or horizontally, and I'll do a big background and then a smaller kind of layer. So I'm cutting this down to 2 by 6 3/4, and then I'm going to add 1/8 of an inch green frame around it. So kind of the same way I did with the background paper. I try to keep my layers in 1/8 and 1/4 because 1/16 I don't do very well. I don't do very well with that. And the floral is from Ink Me in Pink. Whew, that's a tongue twister. And I cut that at printed that 4 to a page. So that's a good way for you to change up the size of the pattern paper if you want to size it for a card. So I'm just getting this adhered, and again, this is probably a go-to sketch for me, and if I did it vertically, it would be very similar. And this is where I decided to go ahead and go for the green because I was like, this is too much pink. I want to bring in a little bit more green because I really wanted a craft background. It was really important for me to have the craft on the card base. So this is where I just go, you know what? I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm going to cut it out of green. So that's what I do. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and add some Scotch mounting foam to the back of the image layer. And then we're going to adhere it flat to the card. I apologize for the lighting. I have no idea what was happening. This is a brand new to me camera, and I haven't had time to sit down and like really understand what happened. I know it hates packaging and that might be the issue. You guys can see I have a pack of paper to the right, so that reflection may be causing it. So I apologize for that. I try to fix it a little bit here while I'm editing, and it just didn't work out. So once I get those adhered together, I'm going to get those on the card, and then I wanted a sentiment. So this is the Easy Salutation set, and I put "It's a Baby." And initially I stamped it in black on that pattern, and I just felt it was too much. So I brought in the same pink that I've been using, and I am stamping in Versamark because I'm going to be heat embossing. So I used an embossing buddy to remove the static. I stamped in Versamark ink, and now I'm using some white embossing powder, and I'm going to bring in my embossing tool to heat that, and then I'll cut it out with a stitched rectangle from my stash. So when I cut this out, I also cut out 2 of the bows from the lily frame die, the oval lily frame die, excuse me. So I'm going to show you how you do this. So you want to break the fibers a little bit, give them a little bit of oomph. So that way when you fold this, it doesn't crack. You don't get any cracking. So if you've ever curled ribbon with scissors, it basically works the same way. So I'm using the Teflon bone folder, but then I'm going to bring in a bone fold, like a real bone folder, one that's not Teflon, to help do the curdling. I was like, I lost my train of thought. So I was struggling a little bit with the Teflon, but like I said, I have a regular bone folder that I brought in to do this. You could probably also do this with the back of like a butter knife or even a plastic butter knife. Again, you just want to keep your thumb down and you just want to roll it so the ribbon doesn't crack when we fold it. So the center tabs, the tabs on the end, fold into the center to create the bow. And again, I have 2 of those, and you can see here what I'm going for, and I want to make sure that it just doesn't crack. So it may look, I'm probably not explaining it well, but you guys can see what I'm doing on screen. It's really, really simple. You maybe could try it with scissors, but I'm always afraid I'm going to cut myself. I'm very accident prone, so it's probably a good idea that I don't do that. And then once I've done that, I'm going to bring in some glue dots, and I'm going to add glue dots to the center to get them adhered together. Love this bow. It's so cute with that lacy edge. So, so cute. There's also a bow in the cupcake die set. So if you're someone who doesn't like to use real ribbon on a card, you can absolutely do this. I haven't used ribbon on a card in a hot minute. I used to love it. I used to put ribbon all the time. It's something I need to get back to. So again, you can use regular glue. I just think it was easier with the glue dots. So once we've done that, I'm going to bring back in my card and decide on placement for the bows. And then I'm going to add some more of the Scotch mounting foam to the back of the sentiment, and that's going to be adhered, popped up as well. For that, I end up cutting the adhesive in half and stacking the die cut on one side and then using just regular adhesive on the other side. I didn't take into account that this would be straddling that die cut, and that die cut is already popped up. So you need extra adhesive on one side. And hopefully I show that. There we go. So I'm just adding more adhesive on one side and leaving, that way that part can be popped up and the other part will touch the die cut completely. Just like that. I'm going to bring in more glue dots to get these adhered, the bows adhered to the card. And then I'm bringing in some jewels from my stash. You could use brads if you wanted to. You could use rhinestones, whatever you have. You could use flowers if you have them. I just like these little jewels and I thought they worked out really, really well. And again, I'm just using glue dots to get those adhered. Liquid glue would work. Tape runner would probably work. Tear and tape, like score tape, that would work as well. Whatever you want to use to get them adhered. Sometimes glue dots are just easier and less messy. So I'm just fiddling around with it to make sure that I got it perfect per usual. And then once that's done, I'm going to add some some Nouveau shimmer pin to the animals, and that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate you. Let me know what you think of this project in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time for another card. Bye for now.